My colleague, a couple minutes here to get settled in, and we'll get started here.
I'm ready.
Give our colleague a couple seconds to get settled in. Say what I said. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday. I'm already, I'm in the Wednesday. I'm in the Thursday. Let's see my parent right now. I gotta hold it together. I know. Welcome everybody to today's planning board meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 11th. We are gathered here at 200 Henry Johnson Boulevard for our planning board public workshop meeting and hearing. We have not as many items on today's agenda, which includes a workshop agenda, meeting agenda, as well as, I believe, something that is a public hearing. Is there a public hearing? Just meeting and workshop. So workshop means we get to talk about it. On the meeting side, we have, I believe, 2 of 3 proposals that will be on a consent agenda. And then there's one that we will do at the end that has some public comment and discussion that we want to have. So for those attending and those listening online, what we'll do for the sake of folks' time, we arranged this a little bit to do the items on the consent agenda, on the meeting agenda first, then do the demolition review for the property, I believe it's New Scotland Avenue, and then place our workshop item on the back end so that we can spend possibly the most time and allow anybody that needs to enjoy the rest of their Tuesday ability to do so. I would ask my colleagues on the board, are we okay with the agenda as I just described?
Yes.
All right, we have unanimous consent. Agenda is approved. So the first item we will do are the 2 consent agenda items. The first one is for project number 00526 CP 497 Washington Ave. The applicant James Scott, represented by Michael Ripley. This is our, I think, second time for this one to allow for a bar and tavern to occupy 900 plus square foot ground level of the building on that premises conditional use. We did see this last month for us. We're considering this for consent. So that's number 1. And the second is on the back page, on page 4, the last project listed there, which is project number 00524 DPR number 017148 Corporate Circle and 41 Corner Road, representing agent Hirschberg. Again, proposal to allow the construction of a 93,000 square foot building. Only action under consideration would be secret determination of significance. Before I read the recommended action for these 2 items, board members, are there any questions that we would like to propose to either the applicants on either of these 2 projects or to the planning staff before I read through and call for a vote for each item? We'll do them as one vote, 2 items.
Yeah.
Martin? No. None as well. Staff, are there any things on these 2 projects that you would like to add to the record, share with the public before we call for the vote?
The one thing on 48 Corporate Circle to call out that this will be coming back for a meeting and further vote. So this is just for seeker significance. Otherwise, we'll vote. Yes.
All right, so for our first item on the consent agenda, it is conditional use permit, and the recommended action is to approve. And for our second, that was for 497 Washington Ave, conditional use permit, recommended action approved. For the second item on the consent agenda, for 48 Corporate Circle and 41 Corner Road. This is for SECRA negative declaration. The question, is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved by Melissa Gilliard and seconded by Martin Hall to approve the two items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those no have the same right. Motion carried unanimously. Those are done. So congratulations. I know there might be some folks here. No drama, no smoke. It's all done. Again, that's for 497 Washington Avenue. We approved the conditional use permit, and also for 48 Corporate Circle, 41 Corner Road, we just approved the negative deck on secret. All right. If there's any shuffling that needs to happen, or folks want to stay for the entirety of the meeting, feel free, but if not, continue on with your evening. The next item up will be project number 00475, demolition review number 0133412, New Scotland Avenue, applicant the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The proposal will be demolition of a 1,500 square foot building so as to avoid it being derelict or abandoned, and to replace it with a new lawn area. Again, the item that we will be considering as a board, either at this meeting or some future point, will be a demolition review. This is the first appearance of this project to the board, and I know there were some public comments as well as letters that were submitted to our files for review. So if the applicant is here, I will call them, please. Welcome.
Yes.
Make sure the green light is on.
Yes.
Is there a presentation, a slideshow?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for coming out. Welcome to the planning board meeting. We don't bite. Absolutely. I believe, what's our time for presentations? 10 minutes for you all. Then if there are questions from board members, we can ask them. There could be some follow-up from the planning staff. And we look forward to hearing your presentation. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Church of Latter-day Saints, I'm here representing.
I'm sorry, we need you to raise your voice.
Okay.
So that way everyone can hear you. And can we please have some quiet so that way they can present? Thank you.
Thank you for that. On behalf of myself, as seen before, representing the Church of the Latter-day Saints, I am here with Eric Hafner, and we wanted to thank you for allowing us to be here to discuss this project, as well as your continued effort to walk us through and make sure that everything was submitted in a timely and respectful fashion, so that we could be here. I am a licensed architect in the state of New York, seen before, and I have reviewed the project, and this is for the property located at 412 New Scotland Avenue. Like I said, and we all know, the applicant is the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. The representing agent for this project will be Gore Construction. They are unfortunately unable to attend today, but they will be the contractors that we will be using for the demolition of this project. The zoning district that this property is located on is an R2 or residential unit, a residential zone. We're requesting the demolition of this property as to facilitate the needs of the church so that they can better use it to facilitate their congregation as well as the community at large. If we go to the next slide, there are some photographs here showing the project location as well as the existing condition of the site. Currently, there is a one-family home that is derelict and asbestos and lead ridden, so there's quite a bit of hazardous materials as you have seen in the hazardous testing report, and a analysis of the immediate community is that there are currently two residential properties left on this block, one being the property we're speaking about and the next being the property directly next door to it. The church is, if you're familiar with the block, taking up the majority of it, essentially one half of the property. And to the east of the church, there is a commercial building that's currently being used as a medical facility. So with that, we can move to the next slide. Our understanding is that the building age is from essentially the end of the 1800s, 1880s, if not early 1900s. The building is pretty old, and upon our analysis of it, we found that it would cost more money to renovate this building with the amount of abatement that would need to be done. So we recommended that the building would be demolished as to prevent the use of the property that would affect the health and welfare of the community. On the last slide of the presentation, you'll see that the property has previously been broken into, and if the church were to use this property for a rental situation, then extensive rehabilitation would have to be done to bring this up to code compliance, and it would essentially be a gut of the entire building, as well as the exterior of the building would need to get completely renovated to remove any hazardous materials that is on the property. The next slide is a site plan, and what we're recommending is after the removal of this property, and the removal of the property will take place using all appropriate New York State hazardous waste disposal methods, and everything will be contained as to prevent hazardous materials from being distributed or being disrupted and becoming born. So to that extent, the building will be removed from the property safely, and we are recommending the church is going to use the space as green space to provide an urban environment with green space for the community, essentially parks, and they can have a place for congregations to happen outdoors on a lawn. There is an existing fence on the property that we will be removing, but we're also having them reinstall that as to prevent parking from the existing site to overflow into the space. It is not of our intent to use this as parking. And then the final slide, the next slide shows the exterior photos again, which, like I said previously, the building has been tested and the shingles have hazardous materials, and everything down to the footings have essentially some part of the building has some kind of hazardous material there. So we would be removing the single family house as well as the garage behind it. And you can see the garage in the bottom right hand corner or on the right hand side. We can go to the next slide to look at some interior photos. This is the basement and some of the deterioration that's been happening to the building, not because of neglect, but because of the age of the property. Of course, the church isn't looking to neglect their property. They're looking to do what they can to facilitate the best use of their property. And with that, they feel that this would be the best use instead of leaving it there and letting it continue to develop in the conditions as we see. And the final slide shows some pictures from the break-in that happened very recently. I think it was this year. So breaking in are people from the community, breaking in case to live in because of the hazardous elements in the building. It's not safe for somebody to occupy currently as it is, and by request of demolition, we feel that would be the safest option. With that, I turn over to Eric, if you have any comments.
I don't have any additional comments. I'm facilities manager for the church out of Rochester, and I've just been involved with some of the paperwork and filings to the city over the last few months.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Planning board members, do you have any questions?
Not just yet, but I think I will.
One question, this is probably more for planning staff. What is the setback of the dwelling unit from the street?
I can look that up. The property as of right now is set back pretty deep in. I can give you the official setback requirement for the R2 zoning district.
That was it for now from me. I know we had some public comment for this. You all are good. We're gonna have public comment now. You can return to.
Thank you.
If there are any.
Actually, I just thought something. It's okay. I would be interested in knowing a little bit more specifics about the category of this waste or the hazardous materials. I mean, I'm not sure, as I'm sure you know, this house is not uncommon. It's a type that's all hundreds of houses. Why is this one, more dangerous than say those other ones? And, to such an extent that our expectation.
Well, I wouldn't say that it is more hazardous than the rest of the buildings in the community. But what I would say is buildings of this age that have deteriorated to the point where this building is deteriorated. In order to renovate the building, you would need to disturb those materials. And once you disturb those materials, it needs to be disposed of in a way that is protecting the person that's doing the construction, as well as the future occupants of the building. As for the first part of your question, some of the things that are essentially, they call them hot in this building, are the joint compound and the sheetrock walls and ceiling, the joint packing and the plumbing, the insulation around the pipe, the tar flashing in the roof, the actual asphalt rolled roof, the tar that they use to waterproof the building, the glazing for the windows in the building, and then there's exterior upper roof throughout on metal deck. So I believe that is on the garage that has tar coating that is a hot material. So pretty extensive for just a small residential property.
Now, the house next door looks very similar, right? And I'm assuming that kind of removing this house with that house is just kind of on its own, which I think kind of to some extent takes away the viability of having a residential building in between the church and the medical building next door. So yeah, so that seems to be a negative impact as far as I can see of that next door.
That's
And it's the same exact process.
I haven't done research on that property. I don't know if it's been renovated from the time of construction. It does look like it's been better upkept, but I can't speak on behalf of that property because I haven't done the research. As for that property being the last one on the block, it seems like along that street, there has been a move to change from essentially residential to a more commercial or mixed use as you're traveling east and west down that street. So I can't speak on behalf of the entire neighborhood, but there has been change beyond residential properties along that, in that area.
I think that's been slow.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that the space would be open to the public.
I don't believe, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can speak on that.
The fence would just be along the side, it wouldn't be closed in front.
Right, okay, and it would simply be a lawn.
It would just be open. Yes, that's correct. No problem. Any other questions?
No? No? Questions? Questions?
The staff does have
Do you want to go through public comment first, or? Let's go through public comment first. If we need to reconvene, we'll pull you on back up.
Thank you for your time.
So I believe we have two public speakers, maybe one not listed on.
Correct.
Okay, so Sean, we'll go Sean Morris first. State your name and address for the record, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. We have a fudge factor just in case, but
Okay,
we welcome public.
I'm pretty well within that. My name is Sean Morris. I live at 24 Marinello Terrace in Albany. Thank you for the opportunity to express opposition to the demolition of 412 New Scotland Avenue. I have prepared remarks here, but I'm probably going to be interjecting periodically to respond to some of the applicants' viewpoints. Number one being, we would have to tear down about 3/4 of Albany if we were going to tear down houses because they have lead paint or asbestos. And I think that everybody should know that in this very building, you can find help for remediating those problems, you know, especially lead in the city of Albany. So well, that'll be my opening salvo. I serve on the board of Historic Albany Foundation, an organization devoted to advocating and preserving Albany's built environment. For nearly 30 years, I've also been active in Albany's neighborhood associations and serve on the board of the Delaware Neighborhood Association. In those capacities, I frequently work on issues involving abandoned buildings, affordable housing, and neighborhood preservation. Among the letters of opposition you've received is from Kara Macri, Historic Albany's Director of Preservation Services, laying out our specific opposition to this proposal. And before this evening's meeting, I read through the impressive list of letters you've received on this issue from neighbors, community leaders, and elected officials, also stating opposition. The reasons they state seem obvious, especially to those of us long involved in Albany's community affairs. They include the need to preserve and retain Albany's built environment. Regardless of a building's historical significance or presence in an official historic district, each home and combinations of homes tell a story of Albany. It tells a story of its citizens and its history. A letter from Kim Alvarez, who is an architectural historian and past president of Historic Albany, clearly lays out the importance of the development of New Scotland area, the New Scotland Avenue area as a residential community. There's a need for affordable homes in Albany and the need to create more home ownership in Albany. This house is ideal for residential homeowners with ample room and space for growing a family. It's begging for a resident homeowner. And I wanted to interject, and on my way over here, I stopped at our neighborhood farmers market and was speaking with Louise McNeely, who's known to a lot of people here, works for the Affordable Housing Partnership. And her reaction was, to demolish a house like that is just crazy. Every day I have people coming in looking for affordable homes to buy. There aren't any. I spend my days disappointing people. The proposal is contrary to the city's Unified Sustainable Development Ordinance, with sustainable being the operative word in the title. There's nothing sustainable about demolishing a usable building, especially when the owners are reluctant to deconstruct the building in a way that would minimize the tons of refuse being consigned to the landfills. And I just can't help but being struck by the idea that they won't invest the money into maintaining the house and won't invest the resources into deconstructing the house. It just flies in the face of everything that we view as, you know, sustainable living in a city.
Miss, you are at time.
Oh, can I finish? Look at one more paragraph. Any financial hardship facing the applicant is a strange combination of non-existent and self-imposed. If the applicant doesn't want to be a landlord, they should sell the building. If the building is in need of repair, it's because they failed to maintain it. If the building is currently vacant, it's because they stopped using it. The church is barely a decade old. Additional lawn space, if needed, should have been part of their original building plan. The demolition is ill-conceived. It is an ill-conceived and ill-considered proposal, and I urge you to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Violetta Teresa.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I know I'm a last minute addition, so I'm very thankful. Thank you. My name is Violetta De Rosa. I live at 140 Grove. I'm also the chair of the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. So right, the church and this property is right in the middle of the Helderberg neighborhood. So unlike the applicants and their representatives here, I do know the community. And so I find it very interesting that there's been some comments made and some things that we can infer of what they believe of the city of Albany. And I think Sean Morris made it very clear when they think that pretty much almost every home in Albany should be torn down, because I don't know about your homes, but my home, we have lead pipes from the city to my water main. I also inherited a house, or not inherited, but our house had lead paint, which we did have to take care of. And you do that by painting it, and I'm sure we can probably give some information to the gentleman on how we take care of older homes. I'm pretty sure many of us around this table can then do that. I find it interesting as well that they want to tear down this perfectly good home, and yes, it has issues. But if you looked at some of the pictures that they did provide the city of the interior, you'll see that there's carpets, there's hardwood floor underneath carpets. So again, I'm sure most of you know, when you get that, you're really excited because you know you're gonna have good hardwood floors that have been protected by carpet. So yes, there's things to do, but as Sean said, we have a tremendous amount of families that are looking for an opportunity to make a property theirs. And I think if the church and the applicant is not interested in maintaining the property, which clearly I find strange because 2 years ago a new roof was put up on that property, and that up until a few months ago there had been residents in that property. So I find it circumspect that they're wanting to tear it down to build a lawn to invite the community, where clearly there hasn't been any open communication with the community to allow them, to allow us to speak with them directly on this matter. I also wanted to talk about how, as you all know, we have a shortage of housing. And so this could be an opportunity for the applicant to unload this property they do not want to take care of, to give other people the opportunity to become homeowners in the city of Albany, which I am very proud to be a resident of. I also want to urge, and this demolishing this viable house conflicts with the city of Albany zoning ordinance, and it undermines the city's comprehensive plan and works to destroy the integrity of the neighborhood. There are many homes in the neighborhood that are around 100 years old. Mine was built in 1935, and if you look at the county ledgers and information about the properties, often they're not correct. So my house next door, my house was built in 1930. I'm at 3 minutes. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm just going to talk about.
We got 4 more pages.
Oh, no, I don't. This actually, we had a petition going. I don't know if the city received those emails from the petition.org. There was 167 signatories. Of those, 126 are Albany residents. Of that 126, 95 are live directly in the 12208 zip code, where the applicant's property is located, and 27 others come from other Albany zip codes. So I also wanted to, if I could leave this with you all, to let you know that there are many others in the community who.
And for us, since you are the head of the neighborhood association, please finish your letter so that it can be in for comment. And
Okay.
submit it so that it can be in the file.
Okay, so do you want to just submit it so you guys can go on?
Absolutely.
I will do that. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Ellis.
you.
I appreciate it.
Any further comments?
None from the
All right, staff time.
So, per the assessor's information, the property was purchased in May of 2011 for $215,000. There hasn't been any proof of any work that's been conducted, any permits being pulled to maintain the property or any work done to the property. There was only a registry of vacant building that was applied for in March of 23 after the applicant was cited. And since and no use of the building is cited as the reason for the demolition, but no proof of efforts to maintain or renovate or use the property since 2011 has been provided by the applicant to substantiate the claim. The applicant spoke about the break-in. We don't have any proof that was submitted by the applicant to justify that claim as well. I'll let Avi add to that.
Yeah, just based on the information provided, which again, I think our the point here is we need more information to substantiate the record in terms of what the applicant is stating, but there does not seem to be anything that makes this building structurally unsound. I mean, it appears like the foundation, certainly the exterior of the property actually looks to be in pretty good condition. And then looking at the interior of the property, I would say the same, that it appears to be in relatively good shape. You know, some of the other considerations for any demolition review are to see if this is a self-created hardship. There's not information provided by the applicant at this time that shows that attempts were made to correct any of the issues with the property that have been stated. You know, so not really showing why the property isn't either occupied or up to code. Additionally, there's no record of any code violations at this point, so there hasn't been inspected recently to show if there were any interior violations. In evaluating the consistency with the comprehensive plan in multiple sections calls for researching and providing best practices to allow for reuse of properties rather than the demolition. So it would be you know, in opposition to just demolishing a property without evaluating alternative uses or reuses of the property. And then additionally, within the application, there's no mention of any study by an engineer or otherwise that shows the cost to rehab the structure and provide a use that's allowed within this district versus the cost to demolish the property. That's all I have.
Also, to answer your question, the allowed setback, front setback is 10 feet. In the R2 district, the property is currently located at 118 feet setback.
Okay, thank you for that. I believe our action and consideration for this one is to defer. We've had quite a bit of discussion and want to make sure that we at least give the applicant an opportunity to respond to some of the things that we discussed tonight, as well as the letters that are submitted are available to public, correct? They are in the file, so you should be able to see. Obviously, at this point, you understand who the neighborhood stakeholders are, where they're located, what organizations they represent. So in these cases, I think over the years, we've always encouraged folks to, have that dialogue. And, we really look for some sort of, at least if we don't agree, we all spoken about it before the board makes a decision, but there's been no conversation. So I offer to the board today, is there a motion to defer? So moved. Second? Second. It's been moved and properly seconded to defer this item on today's agenda. Is there any unreadiness or questions from the board members? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. So that completes our meeting agenda for today. There are no actions for the workshop, so folks can feel free to stay and listen to our workshop or go. It's sunny outside. But we're going to, for our workshop, discuss yes, so hold on, addresses on here. Broad Street, Clinton Street, 2nd Ave, Southborough, Tunis, and 3rd Avenue.
Construction in South End.
Yes, big South End project. Residential townhouse, mixed use neighborhood at edge, mixed use neighborhood center, historic resources overlay. Ooh-wee.
We have a lot of time.
We do. Y'all can feel free to move on up closer to here if you need to.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. My name is Zina Montenegro. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Castro Associates in Rochester, New York. And with me tonight is Andrew Burns. He's our engineering, our project manager and project engineer for the site. Castro Associates is a full-service architectural and engineering firm. We are here this evening representing MDG Design and Construction and Novus Living. Collectively, the partner firms have decades of experience in affordable housing projects, both rental units and also for sale units. In February of 2020, the Albany County Land Bank issued a request for qualifications. In that request for qualifications was identified 84 properties, 78 of them vacant parcels and 6 of them vacant residences that they wanted to see redeveloped for affordable housing opportunities in Albany. MDG and Novus Living were awarded the RFQ, and they have set out now to start building new buildings and rehabbing buildings if that's the case. There are 4 separate phases to this overall development profile. The first phase is a homeownership phase. That's not the one that we're talking about. I'm just trying to give some context here. But it is 9 townhouses on Broad and Lytle Street. Those will be the homeownership properties. That's identified as phase A, and I'll call that phase A1. And then the phase that we're talking about tonight is phase A2, which are the apartment rentals that are for sale. We are talking about 39 parcels and approximately 108 plus or minus dwelling units. We're still in conversations right now with our client and also with New York State Homes and Community Renewal to make sure that we have the proper unit mix and that we're providing the types of housing that are needed in this community. So with that, what you see before you is the existing conditions neighborhood. And the green is the mixed-use neighborhood center district. The light blue is the mixed-use, NE is neighborhood, edge, right? And then the orange is the townhouse district, residential townhouse district. Next slide. Thank you. This gives you just an overall picture of the sites that we've selected for our infill project for this phase. And we have a breakdown of the mix of units percentage-wise. I can also tell you that, let me get my cheat sheet out here. The project includes what 1-bedroom duplexes, 3-bedroom duplexes, 1-bedroom triplexes, 2-bedroom triplexes, 2 single-family 4-bed houses, and 4 multi-use, or excuse me, multi-unit residential properties, each with 5 units, 3 beds each. So we've been assigned the DPR numbers for each one of these, and as we continue scrolling through the slide deck, we can talk about each batch as we go through. So the very first one on our agenda is 85 and 89 Broad Street. Those are both proposed to be duplexes. Okay, I just want to make sure my drawings are next to my drawings. Next slide, please. This gives you an idea of the elevations that we've selected. This project has gone to the HRC for initial comments and presentation. We received very favorable comments regarding the elevations. We know that we are in a historic district and we're being sensitive to the massing and the scale of the buildings that are currently in the neighborhood, trying to match or be similar to the same massing and scale and the verticality of the buildings, as well as all of the design elements that go into the patterns of windows and doors. Next slide, please. This is just a sample floor plan to give you an idea of what the units are going to lay out as. Next slide, please. And then this is going into the next one. So if there were any questions, the first, Eric, can you answer that, or would you like me just to keep running through the slide?
I have a whole lot to ask, but.
I do too.
we
I'm trying to
can-
reserve
yeah,
it for
let's-
the
yeah,
end,
Let's keep going.
Okay, very good.
because there's a lot.
There are, yes. So this is the vacant land or the demolition plan right now for the parcels from between 129 and 145 Broad Street. Next slide, please. This is representative of the layout of the buildings. And these are all triplexes. Next slide, please. Again, an elevation to give you representation of what we're proposing for our building massing and scale.
Are these, sorry. Keep going.
Next slide, please. Again, represented floor plans. Next slide. This is DPR 179. These are all duplexes on the site. Next slide, please. This is 151 Broad Street. Next slide. Scanning elevation. Next slide. Floor plan. $180. Next slide. These are duplexes again. One. This is a triplex, which is a triplex. Next slide, please. EPR 182 at 145 and 147, something like that. These are duplexes.
Sorry to cut in, just to clarify, this is Clinton Street, not Clinton Avenue. It says Clinton.
Yeah, there's a difference.
There is, yes, it's something Ave is over here somewhere.
That one,
That way, okay,
it's about 2-3 blocks down.
thank you. I'll make that correction. Very good. Next slide. In a different style, but again, gives you an idea of the massive scale.
So you're not talking about Clinton Street, right?
Yes, we just clarify.
Sorry. It's Clinton Street. Next slide, please. So these are all firewalls on these. The property lines will be staying where they are, and the buildings will be set up as townhouses, walk-up situations. Yes. Next slide. 183, this is one of our multifamily locations. Next slide, please. This is a 5-family. Barn.
Oh.
Second family. Next slide, please. So the first floor plan on the multifamilies will also include amenity space. That's what that blank space is in the floor plan. So that would be a community room. It will include an office for support services, a fitness center. So all of the multifamilies will have the amenity space on the first floor. Next slide. Another 5-family. Compare 1 to 4. Very similar looking buildings, so the massing and the scale will be similar, but we plan on mixing up the materials and some other features on the building so that we do have some uniqueness to them, so they won't be just cookie cutter. Next slide. Six is Second Avenue. This is a single family. So you'll notice on these two locations that the buildings are in a little bit from the side property lines, and we did that to give more space between the buildings. Because some of the buildings the neighboring existing buildings do have encroachments on our property, so we want to avoid those. We don't want to create issues for the neighbors. So we have modified our design to stay away from those encroachments. here we're dealing with a little bit of an elevation difference along the street, so our buildings need to compensate for that. Next slide. EPR 187, these are duplexes. Um, 329 South Pearl, on the first floor of this property, because this is the mixed use area. There will be space on the first floor programmed for commercial use. Okay. We don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. We just received word from the client today, actually, as we were driving here, that there is programming space on that first floor for commercial activity. And we were asked by the HRC if we would consider providing that because of where it's located, and that is in response to the comments received. EPR 189 on Toulouse. That is a duplex. So 1 Toulouse is the duplex, that's on the lower right. And then third. The 2 that are shown on third are both triplexes. Yeah, on the left-hand side. These are all triplexes.
I have a youth question. Are the townhouses? Are there portions outside the foundation underground, like I think what we call in our neighborhood the English basement, miles out?
Under the sidewalk.
3 stairs that go underneath and down into a basement that in the back lets out at grade.
Sorry. Not proposed at this time. Each site is very unique in whether we're going coming into a hill, where that wouldn't be too feasible there. We do have a few sites where it goes downhill, falling from the street back to that walkout, which you're talking about, but proposing that at this time.
Martin Glennis, I have had it. This is workshop time, so I'm not babysitting. We can just go ahead. And just know for folks here from the public, since this is a workshop item, we don't have public comment necessarily, but what I would encourage is that as you have questions similar to the last project that we just did, submit your inquiries in writing or your comments in writing. And when we bring this, pay attention to the agendas, and as we bring a project like this back, which I assume would probably take a couple of iterations on the meeting agenda, that should be prepared for public comment. But this is a tutoring session for us as the board members, so we don't have public comment at this time. Okay.
Well, I'm just kind of building up this question. How do you intend to use the yards? I noticed some of the properties have large yards, others quite a bit smaller. I mean, what kind of purpose?
Well, most of the sites are actually quite small, so the buildings take up more than 50% of the lots in most cases. So any of the yard space that's left over would be in the rear yard, and that would be for the tenants in the building.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is one parcel that is being considered right now as an open space area for the residents. It's adjacent, it's a lot that's adjacent to one of the 5 families, but it also backs up to another parcel in our set of parcels. And that hasn't been worked out yet, but we're hoping to be able to provide some amenities, outdoor activity amenity spaces for the residents.
Do you have questions?
No.
So I noticed that, like, because of the proximity of all the buildings, they're really within the same proximity. But you have a lot of buildings that have recreational space. Will that recreational space be just for the community? Or for the community as a whole, or just for the residents of that building, or can people from other buildings share within that recreational space?
I know the amenity spaces are they're going to be programmed within the multi-tenant buildings, but I believe that any of the tenants that are within this entire project would be able to use it, but I have to double check to report back on that.
Okay.
But they would not be open to the community.
They would not, it'd just be just for those residents,
Correct.
and the pool of residents, we don't know yet.
That's correct.
Okay. My next question is, so the first phase is going to be townhomes, correct?
Correct.
And those are gonna be for sale?
Right, we aren't doing those ones. That's a different firm that's doing the townhouse portion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're working on the rental unit.
The rental units, okay, and those are gonna be affordable.
Correct.
Okay, so that means you have to have some income, so on, so I just wanna make sure that I know there's different terminology.
Yes.
So which have different meanings. I guess part of where I'm going with that part is, there's definitely a need for the South End for any type of development. I'm from the South End, I live in Clinton Avenue, so I'm very versed in Albany and its neighborhoods and how some are thriving and some need a little assistance. It's just very important as you guys go through that to respect the people who live there for long periods of time.
Understood.
You know, and because that's been a concern as Albany's being developed and more affordable housing is being put in place, where people who lived in the area have not been respected by the people who are coming in who are not from the area.
Understood.
Doing things. So I just want to put that out there.
Yes.
As you go through this process, because you're going to need their support.
Is there an active neighborhood association here that we can?
There is a South End Neighborhood
South End.
Association.
Okay.
And I believe Sonia Fredericks, she is the council person for the South End as well.
Yes, I believe Kenneth Pride from MDG has reached out.
Okay.
So we've started that process.
I wouldn't be surprised if that slot of land that you have covers both Sonia Frederick and DJ.
Yeah, you're right, George Johnson, yeah. You're probably
I
right.
think so. I think second half is a border
Yeah.
of the second border.
The community outreach portion is something that our clients have been managing, and I'm certain that they've already reached out. I just don't know where they are in the process, but it's always good to have that additional information so that we can
Yeah.
be cognizant of being sensitive and helpful.
And that also goes to as you screen residents as well, somebody's gonna respect the community,
Yes.
things of that nature,
Yes.
because they're dealing a lot with that over here. And it's not good. So, and I also believe Sam Fine is the Albany County Legislature, legislator for that area as well.
Okay.
Might be Carolyn Clark.
She would be a good person to speak to. Because she lives only 2 blocks up from where you're trying to
I
build.
would offer that all 4 elected officials that have been mentioned tonight are people, whether it's their literal district or not, will have some sort of
Interest.
connection to the residents in those neighborhoods, as well as being the literal legislator for that particular petition. So we just named 2 common council members as well as 2 county legislators that represent.
Thank you.
And so,
Can I assume that the folks that are part of the audience are also members for the South End?
Yes.
So you obviously have folks that care, that are here to start at the beginning of the process and listen to what's happening as well as participate later with their own comments. So might even take advantage tonight to hear their perspective after we conclude the meeting.
Can you circulate it for email addresses or give them mine, so they can communicate with me? It's always good to start a conversation.
that's good.
Anything from staff?
I did have a question though. It looks like just in me doing just some preliminary look around the area, that there might be a need for some demolition. Is that correct as the project progresses?
Most all of the properties are vacant. The only, I think there's only one building in one of the parcels, and I don't think it's been figured out what we're doing with that.
Okay.
building.
So that may or may not be something that we would have to look at as go forward in the project.
Correct, at least not in this phase, maybe in the future phases.
Okay, and how long do you think these phases are going to be implemented? How long do you think it will take for they're fully implemented? What is your timeline?
So the townhouse project, that was phase A1 that I mentioned, commencement is this fall-ish. That's according to this document that I received from our client this morning. The phase that we just presented to you today, commencement date is the summer of next year, 2024.
Okay,
And then the future phases, that goes into late 2024 and early 2025. So just to give you an idea that we're gonna be around for a while.
no problem.
Done?
I'm done, thank you.
Just one sec, didn't want to step on anybody's freshly done tootsies.
Oh, you noticed that.
Nothing major, but just a question, are there any design elements that you're currently working on revising based on anything like the HRC that hasn't been submitted at this point?
There are, but I don't know what they are. Eduardo Navarro is our architect who's been working on this, and he was explaining to me this morning what he was doing, and I'm an engineer, I wasn't following, so we'll have to defer that back to Eduardo.
Look forward to the discussion and dialogue on this one. This is interesting. Certainly look forward to hearing to my neighbors from the South End. And hopefully this is something that not only will be discussed as good for Albany, but is actually good for Albany. So really look forward to future meetings. That being said, is there any business? Council, we all right? All right. That being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Motion carried. Consent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay.